Hi, and welcome to another episode of Inside NDF, sponsored by National Dance Foundation. So each week we get to interview fascinating members of the dance community, those movers and shakers who really shape what's happening today that we see. Educators, choreographers, you name it, we have it all. So today we are very happy to have John Comix with us. So welcome, John. Nice to have you as on our show today.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are too. So I always like to start out is to please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in dance.
Sure. Yeah. I love dancing since I was very young. I was always kind of drawn to just music and enjoying music and enjoying like dancing to music, performing. But I never got to attend a studio. I've never been part of a dance studio. I would choreograph on my friends. Like that was kind of what I got to do, and it was good because it gave me something really positive to focus on when everything in my environment could have really taken me in a different direction. So I spent a lot of times just like, I always kind of say I'm basically just a grown up version of who, like literally the adult version of who I was as a kid. Like if you see behind me, there's like toys and stuff on my shelf,
I
like.
love
Yeah, so that's kind of just who I am. But so for me, when I was a kid, I loved dancing, and I just got so stubborn about it that I wanted to pursue a career in it. My family found a performing arts high school called School of the Arts in New Jersey, and in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and it was like in its second year, auditioning dancers to come in, and I auditioned knowing nothing about the dance world. So I actually ended up joining a program where I was like, "Oh, there'll be hip hop, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, there'll be hip," but there was like no hip hop, and they handed me tights, and I took ballet and modern for my next 4 years.
it. Had to be quite a culture shock. I mean, because I know how the performing arts high schools are. That's so funny.
Yeah,
But you must have loved it or found it challenging, or ballet is challenging when you first started in high school.
yeah, no, it was very very challenging. When I first joined, I mean, it was like a culture shock. I still don't know how, knowing the kind of like shy kid I was back then, I don't know how I actually like was okay. Like just a whole, everybody else in my program, and everyone who graduated out of it. There, a couple of us still are part of the dance world. A couple of us are kind of floating around doing these different things. But I was around these kids who all took dance so seriously. I knew nothing, so I don't know how I was okay with like standing at the bar and doing all those things, having no idea what I did. But I embraced it, and for me, the concept of learning in a high school environment changed everything for me, because around here, still to this day, not all the time, but mostly, you won't get a real hip hop experience at a lot of studios. You'll get like combos, and it'll be like jazz based. So the likelihood that I would have gotten a very different hip hop experience, but that would have been very high. But I didn't get like the choreography combo of the week experience. I got the education experience where we learned dance pioneers and history and human anatomy, and we learned all these other things about art and how to choreograph and all these things. So when I was able to join my original mentors and learn hip hop, I was seeing hip hop through the lens of like a school version of dance education. So it gave me a really interesting angle to look at hip hop through, and that's pretty much the basis for everything I do now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And now you wear quite a few hats, all of which we're going to talk about. The first one
Mhm.
we wanted to bring up is that you actually manage the Dance World Network social media group. So,
Yes.
how did you get involved in that and why?
So this was during the pandemic. I'm a big user of social media, not necessarily because I love to be on social media. I always say that like John Barella got off social media years ago, and so for me, like that person, the person who shared a whole lot of his personal life, that left social media a long time ago. But this version of me that I used, through dance and everything, I really utilized the original Facebook groups, to just connect with people and just be helpful, try to like share my advice and things. And my reputation really developed a lot through use of social media because I'm a talker. So I get to go in and I get to do classes and things like that. But I think I really got a big opportunity just by sharing words, just by like sharing my philosophy. And I firmly believe that a lot of my reputation developed just because of my use of words in social media groups. So during the pandemic, there was the Dance Teacher Network, which was like that original group. And after some things that happened with that group, a number of people sort of at once created new groups. And I immediately, I'm sitting there on my couch just thinking, and I'm like, yeah, I think I want to create my own. So I sat right here in this office. I was facing the other way at the time. The whole desk was turned around, but I sat in my office and I just like obsessed over it. I created a logo. I was like, you know what, whether or not this group blows up to be like the biggest group on Facebook, and it's not, whether or not it blows up to be the biggest group on Facebook, I wanted to create a good atmosphere, and I wanted to take it more seriously because I felt that these dance groups can be utilized for so much more than just coming on and casually asking a couple of questions. So especially early on, it was my belief that we would just have a good system. And, my group definitely is, it's one of the smaller groups, but it's got a healthy amount of people in it, and it's a place where we have a big admin group that was specifically designed for catching all of these different genres and areas of expertise. So I try to make my admin group a group that would be very easily accessible in case somebody needs a professional opinion. So for example, if somebody were to go into my group and ask a question and it's hip hop related, here I am. Here are a few other members. But, if your question is regarding jazz, or if it's regarding a cultural issue, or if it's regarding literally anything, for the most part, I have an admin team where somebody is going to be the person who takes lead. And that's where it feels like it's kind of our group. And thankfully, we really haven't had that many issues with it. But I took the development of the rules of that group very seriously. I wanted to create a place where we weren't bad-mouthing anybody, where people had a fair opportunity to speak, and we weren't going to take down posts, which was an issue with other groups. And an area where it just felt like a really good, clean, healthy place. And these days, I'm just allowing the group to grow, just continuing to allow people to build onto it. But I like to do things with it where we get to kind of create. I would do it a lot more early on when everybody was really, social media has changed so much in the last couple of years. But during the pandemic, I think it was around the time of George Floyd, and it was kind of triggered by that because people were trying to have conversations about how important Black culture is to hip hop, and how necessary it is for people to understand and be learning about Black culture if you're calling yourself a hip hop teacher or if you're considering yourself a hip hop student. And there is an ongoing concern that hip hop gets silenced sometimes, and conversations about it get silenced. So my group aims to take the concept of that and make sure, number one, that it allows hip hop to be open and free and have all the conversations we can have, even if they're tough, because sometimes, once in a while, it's happened a few times where the admins will say, okay, this is happening in this group. And I'm kind of like, that's good. I like it. Let them fight. We should all learn all perspectives, Right. I like that. So for me, and it's about that with the entirety of the group, whatever genre, whatever topics we can discuss, there's a place to do it in case people want it. And like I said, early on, when social media was when people were obsessively on social media and everybody was seeing each other's posts, I would once a month put up a pinned post where, everybody can drop whatever's happening in the dance world in their area, who's hiring, whatever. And I think that's the best potential for a Facebook group, in my opinion, still. So as of this moment, my thing is to let it grow, keep letting that thing happen, and then see what we can do to really rally people into a community where we can make a lot more happen inside of a Facebook group.
I know we at National Dance Foundation share a lot in your Facebook group, so we appreciate that. But now, kind of, what do you see on teachers' minds today? Is it changed? And I think that's so important that you keep going from the challenges to COVID, because now we're a couple years out of COVID, but people are still recovering. So what do you see on their minds today, teachers?
Well, I mean, what I really see on dance teachers' minds, it's interesting. So at the beginning of the pandemic, it was a good shift for me because I had always wanted to dive more into. I've always been fascinated with, for example, running a Facebook group or developing a certification or pushing more toward my guest work, which got really busy over like the last, over the course of the last decade. Me being a guest artist has really become kind of my primary thing. So I shifted a lot away from the Monday through Friday or even Saturday being at studios every day thing, so I could concentrate more on that. And then I realized I couldn't really step away from it completely, because what I learned is that educators and students are significantly different than they were prior to the pandemic.
Yes.
So I felt that had I stopped teaching prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic, and I would try to pick it up now, I'd be outdated in my information because I'm not in that environment seeing it. And yeah, there are student changes and there are teacher changes. As far as teachers, I mean, everybody has all different kinds of concerns. I find a lot of concerns come from this constantly evolving culture and conversation, and for better or worse, there are pluses and there are negatives to this constant changing culture, because it raises new conversations, which raises new questions, and it makes people hesitant sometimes to want to say or do what they're saying or doing. In terms of hip hop, it's made things easier and harder to teach hip hop because there is a little bit of a call for hip hop to be more authentic in studios, where it used to be something that like I or people like me would like scream it and nobody's listening. Nowadays,
someone like me is saying I'm a hip hop teacher. I get it because
well, yeah, I mean, and my philosophy on teaching hip hop specifically, or helping people with hip hop, it could be a little different than others. Not everybody. There's some great professionals on here who are under this general agreement that we want to help people, and that's kind of my thing. It's my opinion, and not everybody would share this opinion with me, but it's my opinion that a teacher who doesn't know hip hop well but respects it enough to want to know it better is so much healthier to have in the environment, in an education environment, than a teacher who doesn't care about hip hop. And that's kind of what would happen. I always use this example. So there was somebody who posted on the original Dance Teacher Network a while ago, like years ago, and the long story short of this post that they made was basically, it was made to make almost everybody feel like they shouldn't be hip hop teachers. Like, none of you should be teaching hip hop. Not necessarily. I don't know if it's me included, but it definitely had to be most of us, because the wording was, there are less than 5 people in this country who should be teaching hip hop, and it was weird because, and it came from a different place. But here's the problem. I know more than 5 of this person's friends. I'm like, who are you saying of your own group shouldn't be teaching hip hop? No less all of us. But let's use this example. Let's say, because I've learned from this person in the past, let's say I respect that opinion enough to stop teaching hip hop. The person who doesn't respect that opinion, who does a jazz funk instead of a hip hop, will then take my place in that studio.
correct.
So that's so for me, I never want to like push people away from it. There are two basic categories of people that I work with when I train teachers, which is people who really want to learn more and people who really don't want to learn more and call all this foundation old school. So,
Correct.
I'm very happy with the opportunity to train. So I don't believe people have to be perfect. Not everybody's going to have access to the hip hop community, and that does raise the question of whether or not people should be teaching hip hop if they don't understand. But if you want to understand it, you can help the dance world collectively do better. If we can all just raise it a little bit, even if everybody isn't perfect, we're enhancing the collective understanding of hip hop, and we're allowing people to, for me, when I come across teachers, mostly I come across teachers who do better just because they've been given access to this information. They're more cautious. They ask more questions. They're more considerate of their definitions, and they're seeking out, now that they understand, they'll go, oh, that's okay. That seems different to me now. So I want to train with that teacher over there. So, we also get to help other teachers get access to these people as well, and just better information, better training. Overall, I'm not teaching people to have like a shortcut to hip hop education. I'm teaching them how to respect it properly.
Which brings me to my next question. What is the Comix method?
So the Comix method is it's something that was kind of in the backseat for a while. It was I do teacher trainings all over the place, and when I do my teacher trainings, we dig into kind of what I was saying before about what I do with my what I learned in my old performing arts high school, which is, how do we educate? It's not just like, here's what I do, you do it. It's more like, here's the name of this move, here's the technique behind it, but how can an 8-year-old understand this? How can a 12-year-old understand this? What does the history of hip hop do to change and inform what we're educating with? How can we take hip hop's history and create a why behind certain experiences students should have? So for me, hip hop culture isn't properly represented in the dance studio, mostly at least, and it could be represented better. It should never just be, here are the moves, because if you're just doing the moves, you're not really getting the hip hop. You should have the hip hop experience. So the Comix method is born out of the basic teacher training that I've done, where I basically, during the pandemic, I archived everything I do about in terms of education, which is cool, because if I disappeared tomorrow, there is an entire archive of my entire teaching strategy online. There's PDF files of every game, every activity. There are tutorial videos. Like, my whole teaching philosophy is now archived through the Comix method. So I call it a dance certification. I don't call it a hip hop certification. I call it a certification for teaching my teaching method. Specifically because I don't believe in claiming ownership over hip hop. I don't believe I could be the one to say, you are a hip hop person now, you are a hip hop dancer, you're a hip hop teacher. I don't believe in that. I just say, wherever you're at, I'm going to give you clear information. I'm going to tell you about hip hop culture. I'm going to tell you about dance education. I'm going to tell you how to put them together without diluting either world. That's kind of what we figured out.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So really, during the pandemic, you were busier than ever before, is what?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of insomnia those first couple months of the pandemic. So I used that time to literally. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
You put it to good use.
I did. I focused on two things during the pandemic. I learned how to film, because I wanted to. We had no idea how long we would not be able to perform, so I wanted my dancers to get as much of an authentic performance experience as possible. And I found that my dancers were just as excited about a film shoot as they would be about a live performance. Like, instead of just, and people had to do what they had to do, but it got so old to a lot of my dancers early on that we're just like sitting at a camera and recording our dances. Instead, I said, well, how about we create like little short films out of all of our numbers, and that fulfilled everyone. So I learned how to film the entire term. That, like, literally till the sun came up, I was just studying and watching videos and playing in my video editor. So I did that, and I spend my daytime and my nights developing the entire course known as the Comix method. So now the Comix method is divided into two parts. There is the Comix method certification, and there's the Comix method resources. If you take certification, it's like a one-time payment, and that whole thing gives you the entire course, which I update like once a year, once every 2 years, depending over the time. I'm actually in the middle of doing an update to it now, where I'm just refreshing information, like making little adjustments, but it's my whole teaching method. And when people finish it, they get a certificate and they get access to 1 year of the Comix method resources, which is more tutorial videos, downloadable PDF files, skill trees. They get consultations with me, so they can sit with me just as you are right now, and I can give advice. They get free access to all my webinars, things like that, or people can buy an annual subscription to resources independently.
So if they were interested, how do they find out, or where do they go?
So if you're interested in that, you can go right to thecomixmethod.com, and it'll show everything. Comix, COMIX, thecomixmethod.com. And if you're there, you'll see literally all the information. There's like a whole breakdown of every single thing that I offer. I spent months on the website. I spent probably a year on the course, and I continue to. I was just 2 nights ago. I was filming more tutorial videos for this. So there's always just more stuff being added.
Fabulous. Well, I have to say, we here at National Dance Foundation are more than excited, because you're going to be choreographing our student ambassador dance for the UDMA at the New York Metro show. You know, our board member introduced us, Tiffany Prout-Lateo, who says just nothing but wonderful things about you.
Yeah.
And you know, our motto, we had talked about this, our mission is hashtag KIC, kindness, inclusion, and community. Why do you think it's so important to reach people today to encourage them to think about that? Both teachers and students, they incorporate that in.
I would probably refer this right back to social media. I think we live in such a time where people feel, we all, having social media accounts in particular gives everyone kind of a soapbox, and it gives everyone I'm of the belief we're really not supposed to communicate primarily like this through social media. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to, this is why we suffered so much during the pandemic, because we inherently want to gather as community, being with each other. So there's so much, especially with young people, there's so much communication that goes on through their phones. I mean, I see it in kids that I know better, kids in my own family. They've lost social skills, and they've lost certain kindness and certain professionalism that comes along with it. Even some of my college students, they're lacking a certain thing because they feel it's tricky. We want to empower people, but sometimes people get empowered. Young people being empowered is a good thing unless it's not a good thing. If you empower young people so much to the point where they're resistant to an education, which happens, it can be a problem. So, and I see that. I see that especially in my teenagers and in some of my college students. The empowerment to just say, like, for example, a lot of kids don't like to feel uncomfortable anymore. So, and which is a good thing.
But
yeah, but like, it's a good thing. We don't want people to feel uncomfortable, but also at some point, a lot of young people heard, and even older people too, heard, if you're uncomfortable, somebody's wrong. But that kills what we do as coaches and as teachers and people who have to give notes and constructive criticism. I have a friend who gave notes to dancers on stage, and notes to fix your performance, whatever. And one of the girls who got the notes, approached the choreographer after, like, kind of angry, like, I don't appreciate you talking to me about what I did wrong in front of everybody. So, like, there's these basic skills that I think are fundamental to us as dancers in particular. We could talk about the whole world of this, but, for me, the concepts that we're struggling that we're misunderstanding notes and effort and a push to go forward, and we're misunderstanding that as a lack of kindness is a problem, because it is a kindness to do this for this. So for me, yeah, we want to teach dancers kindness because we want to make sure everybody's kind to each other, but we also want to teach dancers what kindness actually is, and what actual value there is in growth and all of those things, because I think it's had an effect. I had this conversation with some of my college dancers at the end of one semester, because my college dancers in particular, they're at that halfway point between student and professional adults, and they take responsibility for themselves, and they have their excuses. They have their excuses when they don't want to do what they don't want to do, and that's got to be okay and all this stuff. And so I waited till the end of the school year, and I sat everybody down, and I always do kind of like a question of the week or question of the semester. And my question at the end of the semester was, if I had to give an actual recommendation about you based on your conduct these last couple months in this school year, what would I actually say about you?
Ooh.
And it was fascinating, because I didn't tell them what I thought about them. I let them tell me, and they were pretty, okay, I'm actually pretty lazy. Oh, I show up late all the time. There were all these things. So that was a really interesting question, but I think it was so important because I followed that up with a conversation about how I said, no matter how comfortable you want to be, no matter how, easy you want this to be, not only will the dance world not serve you well like that, the dance world can't function on this mentality. If your entire mentality comes into the dance world and there's no more responsibility on someone's part. There's no more effort, and we all have to stay stagnant right here where it's comfortable. The dance world won't survive on it. So I get concerns for the dance world over that. So for me, when it comes to kindness and inclusion and all these concepts, I'm so interested in the idea of making sure students especially feel that you're kind while you're being a good influence and a good push and a good motivator, and while you're educating. I remind my dancers constantly, like, hey, listen, I'm this is what I need of you, and I need it because I want better for you. If I would, you should be more concerned if I'm ignoring this issue. You know what I mean?
And that's a good point, because without kindness, you can't build a community.
Mhm.
And that's that community that gives you that strength to go on. And you're true. It is true. That's so important to express to young people, because if you weren't, that's the only way they're going to get better too. So no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the other half of it, because my students know me as a teacher who can be tough on them and can require a certain level of productivity, not product. Product is, product as in final result, choreography, technique. We're ongoing. I don't ever expect dancers, you have to be perfect. It's not like that. It's productivity. It's how hard you're going to work. And I tell them all the time, like, I did a workshop once where I had these dancers, a bunch of kids, all ballet dancers, and they were learning breakdancing. And one girl out of the whole group was really struggling. And I said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And she said, I'm not a breakdancer." And I said, "Do you think I'm here to teach you breakdancing?" And she's like, and I said, "I'm not even here to teach you hip hop." And she's like, looking at me. I said, "I'm not even here to teach you to dance." I said, "I'm here to teach you how to take yourself seriously as a professional. So you don't have to want to pursue dance or hip hop or breakdancing to get value out of this. You just have to learn. You just have to create the ability to take yourself seriously. And if you can do that, you're going to be awesome. You'll take this skill and you'll apply it somewhere. And that's what I'm actually looking for. So yeah, like that. But the other half of that, so I'll push, but I also want to make sure my dancers know that when I'm sitting down and I'm not pushing for a second, I'm listening and I'm considering, and I'm paying actual attention to whatever needs they have. So my class process might be different than some, or maybe exactly the same as some, but it's different than some of the experiences I've had with some teachers. I will take 5 minutes and just sit with kids and be like, "How's your week? Let's just, I want you to know I hear you for a second." And that's it's like a communication thing, that it's like such a basic communication thing that people want. Because like, even when it comes to politics,
it's not even just a want, it is a need too.
Yeah.
That's
so I mean, any time I've had any kind of debate with somebody, politics, whatever, it goes nowhere if I'm just like, "You're wrong, I'm right, listen to me." You have to give somebody something. You have to tell somebody you hear them, and it like immediately takes down this wall, and now we're having a conversation. And that's what I prefer, and I use that as a teacher a lot.
I love it. And I have to tell you that National Dance Foundation is so excited to have met you and to be able to work with you. You will be at the UDMA New York Metro City booth also. So you want to meet John, please come by. You'll get to see him. And then at the fashion show, see his choreography. So we look forward to working more with you,
You too.
together. So thank you so much. Any final comments before we say goodbye?
No, this was a pleasure. I really had a lot of fun doing this. I love, like I said before, I love talking. So I'm easy conversation. I could have done this for 2 hours. So I appreciate you bringing me.
We'll get you back again. We'll get you back after the show.
Absolutely.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Inside Dance, sponsored by National Dance Foundation. And we've spoken about National Dance Foundation. If you'd like to learn more, it's nationaldancefoundation.org. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. And before we say goodbye, as we always say, keep dancing. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. And that's it.
Cool. Awesome. That was great.